Hello, friends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where we are completing up the 8 dimensions of wellness for the month of October. So, as a recap, the first week we covered environment. We talked about the importance of where you are physically, not just, your mind, body, spirit, but literally your location, your physicality. Where are you? Your environment, whether that be your home, your work, etc. Then the second week we covered emotional, physical, and spiritual. What is an emotion? Energy in motion, how we can have certain emotions that will get stuck in our bodies, how to process through that. And then the spirituality, which can look numerous ways for numerous people, but understanding there is something bigger than you and the power of us all being connected. Then last week we covered social and career. So this was our tribe, our community. Who are we interacting with? Who is our people? Do we have people? And what does our careers look like? What are we doing? Are we leaning into our talents, our gifts, and our abilities? This week we are finishing up with financial and intellectual. So let's kick it off strong. What is the first thing you think when you think finance? Money, moolah, dinero. Financial. This is one of the parts. This is definitely part of the 8 dimensions of wellness. We live in a 3D world where we have tangible things, resources that we need. So when we think of financial, we usually think of resources, which is very important. This is also attached to our root chakra. We need to feel safe. We need to have our needs met, food, clothes, shelter, those type of things. So when we think of financial, I want you to think of it as being a base, right? Now, to think of a base, we want to think of a foundation. A foundation needs to be sturdy, needs to be strong, needs to be able to hold whatever you put on top of it. So if financial is rooted into our safety and our security and our root chakra, we need to make sure that there is balance, there is harmony, there is coherence with the financial aspect. But oddly, more times than not, finances is one of the hardest, most triggering components of the 8 dimensions of wellness because of the stigma, because of how we are indoctrinated about money, about finances. Put a pin in that. We're going to come back to it. Let's talk about the intellectual piece. So when we think about intellect, again, this is how we are conformed into our identities of how we see things, our model of reality. What does that look like to be educated in finances, for example? It's going to look a lot different for someone who says, for example, someone who has family that maybe their dad was an accountant, or maybe their mother was an accountant, or they were both very wealthy, or whatever the case may be. The conversations around finances in particular, we're going to come back to intellectual being more than just money, but the finances about the intellectual speak on finances is going to look a lot different for someone who grew up in a household that had this very safe and secure base, right? Versus someone who grew up with any kind of insecurity or scarcity, especially dealing with resources. It's going to be a lot different. So, what does that look like for you now? Yes, this is the foundation, how we are raised and what we are believed to think about money, whether that be you had money, but then you were taught that money was bad, or you didn't have money and that money was hard, or that you can't get money unless you work really hard, or you look this way, or you have these degrees, or whatever the belief systems that you were indoctrinated and kind of formed in is going to dictate usually the type of adult you become. The good news is you always have the power to pivot. You always have the power to change. If you did not grow up in a secure foundational space as far as finances go, even if you become an adult, you can choose differently. You can choose to educate yourself on financial literacy. What does that look like for you outside of the indoctrinations, whether that be physical, emotional, spiritual? Because a lot of people who grow up in very heavy religious basis and foundations, it's almost bad to be rich or wealthy. So really understanding the programming of your mind, really understanding the model of reality, really understanding the lens that you see finances through, the resources through. Is it hard? Is it triggering? Is it tough? Do you hate it? Whatever that looks like, getting to the root and understanding that you can reprogram your mind. You can rewire your neurons. You can rewire your beliefs about finance. Now, finances are only a tool. They are neutral. Money is not good. Money is not bad. Money is a tool. Okay. And it's how we use it that will dictate what kind of harm or help that we do in this world. So we can see, like, I grew up in particular, not super religious, but as I got older, it was more religious, and it was very kind of not so great to be very wealthy, or were almost deemed like you're better than, and you would have to come up against a lot of resistance, if you will, even within your own family. So there's been a lot of uncovering and rewiring that I've had to do personally around finances and my beliefs around it. It's an ongoing process because sometimes we will realize that we will default back into our old programmings, not even consciously. So it's something that you really have to study, bringing us back to the intellectual piece. What are you studying? What are you believing? What are you holding to be true? Because all your brain, your subconscious is going to do is bring you evidence of that. So if you start to understand, like anything else, the root and giving it its proper place, right? Money isn't good or bad. Money is a tool. I choose to have wealth because I choose to help with that wealth. I choose to uplift the conscious, not just the consciousness, but physically help people with resources. For example, as I'm filming this, we are about to go into November, and in the US, there is what's called SNAP benefits, and this is usually dealing with food, right? They give supplemental food money for those who need it. It's usually those below the poverty line, disabled, elderly, things like that. That has been cut off for the month of November, which has not happened, where people have literally removed that supplement. So there is a very big cry and need for food. That is a huge one. That is a resource. That's a basic human right. So it's causing a lot of things to come up for people. What are they going to do to feed themselves, their children, etc.? This is a perfect opportunity to understand the power of understanding what you can do and how you can use it to uplift, right, your community. So say if you have excessive amount of wealth, and not even excess, but an overflow, and that you are financially secure, stable, whatever the language and terminology you use, you'll be able to help others. I am personally helping a single mom and her children replace what she was getting, right? So there is no impact in that way. But there are food banks. There are people who are now understanding the severity of this. And so they basically almost adopted someone in their community and said, I will cover your food costs this month. So this is really, really important as we come together and use our resources, our finances, to uplift a community, state, country. Okay. So when we think about intellectual as well, we want to think outside of just financial, but what are you learning? Our brains love knowledge. Knowledge is power. Whether you have degrees to confirm that you have learned this information, or if you are just an inquisitive person and you want to know more about why the things do the things they do and why things work the way they work and whatever it may be, you have to be intentional about it. Have a purpose in mind, and depending on how you like to learn, is it hands-on? Is it through listening? Is it through watching? Is it through whatever it may be? Understanding how you like to learn and feed your mind things that are uplifting, that are edifying, that are expanding, that are going to help you feel more expansive and abundant in your life. This is what it's about. So when we think about finances, I want you to give yourself a moment to understand, what is my beliefs about finances, right? Removing any kind of judgment on money. It's not good, it's not bad, but it's neutral. So if you go out and you see a tree, okay, and that's so funny because they say, money doesn't grow on trees. So I'm using the tree analogy. You go outside and see a tree. If you were taught that trees were bad and that they could fall on your house and that the roots can mess up your foundation and that they shed and all the things, then you're going to have a negative, obviously, belief about trees. Now, if you're indoctrinated and kind of grow up in an environment of the magic of trees and how they help us breathe and how they provide shade and how they are so healing and help to transmute energy, again, a different way. The tree itself is just a tree. It's just existing. So looking at money as like, it's just here. How do I choose to view it? So when you can change the negative, for one, and bring it into a more neutral state, that is the first thing to move from your mindset of it being negative or bad or dirty into a neutral space of it's just here as a tool. And what I choose to do and how I choose to view it is how it chooses to show up in my life and in the world. So if we are going to look at money, finances as a way of being like, wow, I love that I have trained my brain to hold money as a tool that can build many great things. And then using not just financial expansion and growth and security to help, but also understanding how just learning more about what it is to help you be more expansive, right? So whether that's learning another language, whether that's learning an instrument, whether that's learning on a particular subject, that's something that can impact the world in a positive way. Educating yourself, not just believing what you've been told, because more often than not, it's negative. More often than not, it's a lie. More often than not, it's jaded. So understanding and knowing for yourself what resonates true in your body, but first moving from negative to neutrality, from neutrality, and then moving it into a more positive, uplifting experience. So as a recap again, the 8 dimensions of wellness is obviously 8, an infinity sign. Neither is more important than the other. They all work together, and we need all of these dimensions of wellness to be full and have coherence, mind, body, and spirit. They are environment, emotional, physical, spiritual, social, career, financial, and intellect. I would love for you to drop in the comments what spoke to you. What are you going to focus on? Because giving yourself different things to look at in different seasons also is very edifying and uplifting. Like, I'm going to work on my environment right now. You know, I'm not happy with where I live or where I work or whatever. Or I'm going to work on my social spaces. Like, the people in my life I don't feel get me. They don't hear me. They don't want to hear me. They put me in these boxes and I want to XYZ. I'm going to work on my physicality, right? Because it's not just mind and spirituality, but it's our body. We have to keep our bodies moving well to be able to even take in this information. So I would love to hear for you to share in the comments what spoke to you. And I hope you have an amazing rest of this October as we move into November. OMG. October, Oct means 8, 8 dimensions of wellness. We need all of these to live in full coherence, mind, body, and spirit. I will see you next week. Thanks so much for watching.